The Soviet Union sent 300,000 soldiers to crush Finland in just weeks. But in the forests, in the freezing silence, one man was waiting. No scope, no mercy. In just 100 days, he would kill over 500 soldiers and vanish into the snow before anyone could catch him. His enemies called him the White Death. December 1939. The wind cuts like a knife. The air is so cold it burns the lungs. Snow falls in endless silence, covering the forests of Finland like a white shroud. Somewhere out there, in the frozen wilderness, one man lies perfectly still. His rifle is steady, his breath invisible, his eyes fixed on a distant tree line. His name is Simo Häyhä, but to his enemies he will soon be known by another name, the White Death. This is the story of how one small, quiet man became the deadliest sniper in history, facing an army of over 300,000 soldiers and winning. Just 3 months earlier, Europe had been plunged into war. Germany's invasion of Poland had sparked a global conflict, but in the far north, another, very different war was brewing. The Soviet Union, under Joseph Stalin, looked across its border at Finland and decided it wanted more land, a buffer zone against possible invasion. Finland refused. And on November 30th, 1939, Stalin sent in his army. The Soviets expected a quick victory. They sent hundreds of thousands of soldiers across the border, supported by tanks, artillery, and aircraft. To them, tiny Finland, with barely 3.5 million people and a small, poorly equipped army, seemed like an easy target. But they had underestimated two things: the brutal Finnish winter and the sheer will of its people to defend their homeland. Simo Häyhä was not a man you'd pick out of a crowd. He stood just 5'3". He spoke little, smiled often, and preferred the company of nature to the noise of cities. Born in 1905 in the farming region of Karelia, Simo grew up hunting in the dense forests, learning to track deer and birds with patience and precision. By the time he was a teenager, he could hit a target the size of a matchbox at 150 meters, even in freezing wind. He joined the Finnish Civil Guard at 17, training with the M2830 rifle, a weapon he would know like an extension of his own hands. When the Soviets crossed the border, Simo didn't hesitate. He reported for duty with the 6th Company of Infantry Regiment 34. He carried no scope, no fancy gear, just his rifle, his winter camouflage, and the skills he had been sharpening his entire life. From the very first day in the field, Simo's approach was different. He would study the land, memorize the trees, and find the perfect hiding spots. Dressed head to toe in white, he would vanish into the snow. He refused to use a telescopic scope, fearing the glint of sunlight might give him away. Instead, he relied on iron sights. He packed snow into the firing position in front of him to hide the muzzle flash. He put snow in his mouth so his breath wouldn't steam in the cold air. And then he would wait. Hours. Sometimes all day. When his target appeared, he fired once. Only once. And then he was gone. Within the first week, dozens of Soviet soldiers had fallen to a single unseen marksman. Soon, whispers began spreading through the Soviet ranks. There was a ghost in the snow. A phantom who never missed. By January 1940, the Red Army had a name for him. Belaya Smrt, the White Death. The Soviets tried everything to kill him. They sent their own snipers to hunt him down. None returned. They shelled his suspected positions with artillery, turning the forest into a shattered wasteland. Simo always slipped away, only to reappear somewhere else the next day, rifle ready. His kill count began to climb, 50, 100, 200, and still, he did not stop. In just under 100 days, Simo Häyhä would personally take the lives of over 500 enemy soldiers, an average of 8 per day. This in temperatures as low as minus 40 degrees Celsius, in snow so deep it could swallow a man whole. But Simo was not only a sniper. When the Soviets pressed too close, he would pick up a submachine gun and fight at close range, killing dozens more in desperate bursts of gunfire before melting back into the forest. What made him so effective was not just his accuracy. It was his patience, his invisibility, and his understanding of the land. He could disappear into a patch of snow less than 50 meters from enemy lines, wait until the perfect moment, and then take a life without anyone knowing where the shot had come from. The Red Army began to fear the forests themselves. Soldiers hesitated to advance. They kept their heads low, knowing that somewhere unseen the White Death might be watching. But in early March 1940, Simo's luck nearly ran out. During heavy fighting, a Soviet soldier spotted him. An explosive bullet struck him in the lower left jaw, tearing away much of his face. His comrades found him unconscious, his face shattered, his life hanging by a thread. Simo fell into a coma. He would remain unconscious for days. When he awoke, it was March 13th. The Winter War had ended. The war had lasted just 105 days, but it had cost the Soviet Union over 100,000 lives, far more than they had lost in the invasion of Poland. Finland had been forced to give up some territory, but it had survived. Against overwhelming odds, it had stood its ground. Simo Häyhä spent months recovering. Surgeons rebuilt his face. He carried the scars for the rest of his life. Yet he returned to his quiet ways, living as a farmer and hunter, rarely speaking about his wartime service. When asked how he had become so effective, he gave no grand speeches. He simply said, "I did what I was told to do, as well as I could." Simo lived to the age of 96, passing away in 2002. By then, his legend had spread far beyond Finland. Military historians, soldiers, and marksmen around the world knew his name. His confirmed kills, 505 with a sniper rifle, over 200 more with other weapons, remain unmatched to this day. And yet, perhaps his greatest achievement was not the number of lives he took, but the fear he instilled, the way one man could slow the advance of an entire army simply by existing. In the frozen forests of Finland, the snow still falls, just as it did in 1939. The wind still howls. And if you stand quietly enough, you might almost imagine the feeling of being watched, the prickling sense that somewhere, out there, a man in white is lying in wait. Simo Häyhä, the White Death, the deadliest sniper in history.